And in fact, the Republic Press is talking about that this morning. You have the Republic Press front page. Accra traffic returns. Traders' low sale mantra rings true again. So they are not just looking at the traffic situation in town. They're also talking about how that is, feeding into trading across the capital. But I must tell you that this morning, lots of people moving to the central district area. So points to the fact that lots of traffic in town, and we just want to appeal to the MTTD as well to come through in areas that there's heavy traffic. There's a talk about the MIF CEO being under fire as former finance manager challenges the summary dismissal in court. Then High Court rebukes Yoko over delays in buffer stock case. The Hanan case, right, is being spoken about here on the front page of the Republic Press. Atoforson dragged to Shraj over alleged discriminatory practices in ex-gratia payments. I'll get you details of that. That's an interesting one coming through. And GJ is announcing the third dinner night, a night of celebration for those of us in this field as well. So these are some of the stories you get when you grab a copy of the Republic Press this morning.
Now, the news center for this morning says Yoko apologizes over delayed response in buffer stock case. MT and Yellow Ladies support breast cancer care with 200,000 cedis. Operiata's U.S. lawyer slams OSP. Also on the front page, margins sets example in urban renewal, climate resilience. First Atlantic Bank shares gain on first day of GSE listing. Good news there. And cities. So Ofriata's U.S. lawyer slams OSP, cites illegal warrant, legal breaches, misused Interpol notice, and no crime identified. Okay, Honorable Jinapor.
Okay. Parliament passes appropriation bill. Government to spend 357.1 billion Ghana cedis in 2026. Political leadership must pursue national vision. Reverend Wengam. Ashanti Port wins $33.3 million in Buankra port arbitration. 636 blue water guards deployed to combat illegal mining, protect environment. That is the Ghanaian Times.
Okay.
I guess two of those stories he's quite familiar with those ones. The allocation is in Parliament, so no need to educate him on that.
We'll talk about the allocation.
And then for the blue water guards, I'm sure he has a take on that we'll dig into shortly.
Maybe he can tell us about the 357 billion allocation for 2026. That's the Appropriation Act passed on Friday. That's how much we intend to spend in 2026 on Abu Jinapor.
Yes, indeed. I mean, that is the budget the finance minister presented to Parliament, which culminated in the debate and the work of the various committees, which is eventually resulted in the passage of the appropriation bill, which is the bill which gives the finance minister the mandate to spend this amount of money, which he requested from Parliament, the approval of Parliament. Now, I think the most important part of these arrangements is mostly the revenue part of it. This is the amount the finance minister intends to spend. He then now needs to put in place the necessary measures to raise the requisite revenue to be able to support this program expenditure. Then also is the question of actual releases. I think that's always the biggest issue, and that's the experience I had in government. It is all well and good to project this kind of expenditure, which is good. And then, of course, the prioritization and how the allocations have been done have also become a subject matter of great discussion. But the most important part will be the actual expenditure.
Okay. We'll get back to all of this later on. Yes, let's move on.
We have the Inquisitor this morning. Yuko scared, Dow Xmas for gamers, and I hope you know the gamers, the Game Boys in town. That's an interesting take by the Inquisitor, claiming that due to this raid on romance scam fraudsters, fraudsters in general, the Christmas expenditure is carrying them, largely because there might be some trails, and of course that will lead to their arrest. So it comes with a picture of Raymond Archer, the Yoko boss. Then there's the talk about COCOBOT defending Cocoa Road suspension, and also the local government minister is ending the sanitation drive for Christmas. There's the talk about the 2024 running mate of the New Patriotic Party, that's Dr. Prempe. He's been speaking a lot about the party going forward. He says, let's remember the vulnerable during the Yuletide, and he's also been touching on some of the key items that will be required to solidify the front of the party going into their reorganization come January 31st. That's for the presidential level, but obviously a lot more will follow after those ones. I also have the publisher this morning. The publisher is talking about the Boankra port dispute, and it appears that there's an order to pay APSL 33.3 million United States dollars. Minority would defend democratic values. That's according to the minority leader Alexander Afenyo-Makin. There's also the talk about the buffer stock story, and Cardio Boss pushes for shared resources in heart care. So yeah, you grab a copy of the publisher and you'd get details of all of these stories this morning.
Now, the daily guide for this morning, Reverend Wengam slams abuse of power. And Ashanti NDC organizer declares chairmanship bid. Bonkra Inland Port dispute just more to pay Ashanti Port $33.3 million. Farmers bare teeth over raw rubber export ban. Manson Kwanta MP launches scholarship to boost human capital. All on the front page of the daily guide.
That's right.
Business and Financial Times. Olam Agri pays courtesy call on Mahama. BOG touts bank listings to anchor long-term savings. Stock market. The listing drought is over as First Atlantic Markets marks first GSE IPO in 7 years. Rural banking. Okonfanochi Rural Bank records remarkable growth in all indicators. Bags 15.4 million Ghana cedi profit. Before tax, shareholders get 61.5%. Returns on investment. Lotteries. NLA boss and participates in Africa Lotteries Review meeting. I think that's it. That's for Business and Financial Times.
Great. So let's go for the online news review now.
We've spoken about this on our platform before. I recall interviewing Yoko about that, but it's still continuing. The case of the syndicate stealing cars from destinations like Canada and the others and bringing them into the country. Looks like there's another discovery with Ghanaians involved, stealing as much as 306 stolen vehicles. From that point, and obviously the destination will be West Africa, we know. So it's on the front, it's actually online. It's on myjoyonline.com. If you log on right now, you get details of that story. There's a talk about the president directing the release of 1 billion Ghana cedis to contractors owed since 2017. He's in Sunyani, I understand, also as part of the moves to check the big push and of course its impact so far. So the president is ordering some more releases of funds. 2 nurses, security guard arrested over alleged baby theft at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. You might want to check out that one as well. And the Bank of Ghana governor is indicating that there's more reforms that will shield Ghana from another financial meltdown. So yeah, just check out all of these stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com. And what a joy it was for our friends at Adome TV. They did their 9 lessons in carols. They electrified the National Theatre actually, and it was a very, very, very colorful celebration. If you missed out, we have so much happening this Christmas, including the Joy FM family party in the back. Winston will be there, the Daddy's Corner. You need to be on the
it's
lookout.
very crucial that you show up at Daddy's Corner.
Yeah, you have to.
And once the daddies are there, the mummies will visit. So
very important.
That is expected.
Yeah.
Yes, finally on City Newsroom.
City Newsroom is also talking about babies, 5 others dying, late night fire at that's around Mensha. So that's a sad one that we recorded for this Yuletide. Cocoa Board is also warning cocoa value could slump. And that may happen next year in the FOB price. So yeah, you can get all of these details when you go online especially myjoyonline.com. You find details there.
Great, so let's get into the details of these stories, and one about the Bonkra Inland Port dispute, where we're told that Jasmine to pay $33.3 million. So the Ghana Arbitration Center, in a unanimous decision, has ordered Jasmine Construction Limited to refund $33.3 million to Ashanti Port Services Limited, identified as the outstanding balance of advance mobilization payments arising from disputes over the Bonkra Inland Port project. Now, the amount is to attract simple interest at a rate of 4% per annum, calculated from 30 days after receipt of the award until full payment is made. Conversely, the tribunal directed Ashanti Ports Limited to pay $7.1 million to Jasmine as compensation for earthworks executed at the project site. On cost, the tribunal ordered Jasmine Construction Limited to pay 75% of Ashanti Port Services legal fees, as well as 75% of the claimant's share of the arbitrators and administrative fees. But also on the front page, Reverend Wengam slams abuse of power, and I'll be getting Honorable Jinapor's view on this. So, the General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God, Ghana, Reverend Stephen Yenusom Wengam, has spoken strongly against the abuse of power in political circles, the corporate world, and within marital homes, warning against its use to promote selfish interests or gain undue advantage. And there's a quote attributed to him: "In the name of acquiring wealth, attaining political positions, or gaining promotion in the workplace, some people use all sort of wicked means to mistreat or eliminate their perceived enemies. This is what King Herod attempted against the baby Jesus, and such crude methods must be eschewed by political leaders and private individuals alike." Honorable Jinapor, Reverend Wengam is slamming the abuse of power. He says we should focus on a collective interest and not wicked and personal interest.
I think the Reverend's call is in the right direction, and I think it's one that we should commend him for. And the issue of abuse of power, as you know, is one that is pervasive, and I like the fact that he touched not only on political circles, and he even went as far as abuse of power in homes, in marriages, and all of that. And the imbalance in power can arise through multiple, or can be occasioned by multiple factors. It could be occasioned by even economic imbalances. In a marriage, one partner may be more economically or financially endowed than the other, and that can result in the person having more power over the other, and that power can be abused. And of course, the Reverend talks about corporate world, where superiors sometimes abuse their power, abuse their authority when it comes to dealings with subordinates. But even more importantly is abuse of power in political circles. And I have had the occasion to make this point in Parliament before, that when we build a society or a system which respects rule of law, which respects the fundamental human rights of citizens, which is predictable, and people do not abuse the power that is vested in them, it works for all of us. And I believe the ruling political class must be very, very interested in constructing a society or a democracy which is anchored on rule of law, which is anchored on predictability and respect of human rights and all of that, and not a system which is anchored on rule of men or abuse of power. And when that happens, there's protection for all of us. The law must be applied without fear or favor. It must be applied fairly. And when people are given power, political power in this case, they should always be mindful of the fact that the power is vested in them by the people. If you look at the preamble of our constitution, of our national constitution, it makes it very clear that all authority or power shall be exercised for and on behalf of the people, and it's the people who vest and gives power to people. And so I think the Reverend is made a right call, and that call is even more relevant in this season, in this Yuletide season, Christmas season, that we should be reminded that at the end of the day, whatever power is given to us is given to us first of all by God, and second of all by the people, and therefore we should never under any circumstances abuse power, whichever.
Let me understand something, because you've been in government. You're in Parliament, so you've been in our politics for a very long time. How is it like? Why is it that sometimes you're campaigning, you say all the things you say to us, and then when you get into office, we see a departure from the very things that you stood for. What is the thing about political power that leads politicians to behave the way they behave?
Well, first of all, always remember the general rule. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And power can be very corrupting. And it can, as we say in Ghanaian parlance, it can get into your head. I mean, and what really happens, in my view, is the whole orientation. I think first of all the most important point is the whole orientation, the person's mindset, and this is the point I keep making, that you are always to remind yourself certain basic principles. That the first principle in my view is that power is transient. You can't have it all the time. Those who have even wielded power for 30, 40, 50 years, they've had to let it go. That's the first principle. The second one is also the point I made about being clear in your mind that whatever power is given to you by God and by the people. So if you take a president of a country, the power is given to the president by the people. And then the president delegates some of that power to his ministers, deputy ministers, and so on. And so if you appreciate that the power is not vested in you by your personal authority. And thirdly and finally is the principle of service in public life. You also have to be mindful and keep reminding yourself that in public life or in public service, the whole ethos of it ought to be about serving the people. And so if you have these three broad but fundamental principles properly ingrained in you, I believe you will be measured. But it's very easy to get off the track. Very, very easy.
How easy is it? Because I want to understand. I mean, these are principles you've just told us about. So how easy is it to get off the track?
It's very easy because, first of all, when you are in a position of authority or power, the first problem you encounter or the first temptation you encounter are the people themselves.
What about the people?
Yeah, so for example, if you were wielding power, president, minister, what have you, you walk into Joy FM and let's be blunt about it, and in all modesty, you find people almost being sycophantic and laying the red carpet for you and making you feel godly, and so you have to be able to distill.
So in effect, you're saying that as a people, we treat the very persons that we've entrusted power to as kings, and in some instances like God.
Yes, we as kings, and I think that is something that the population itself to have to rise up to. If you go to develop democracies in Western world and the rest, if you go for a meeting as a minister and you are having a discussion with your subordinates, they, Mr. Minister, they will be courteous and all of that, but they will not be sycophantic, they will not be pandrous. But our society somehow is structured in a way where we almost seem to transfer the reverence we give to our kings and chiefs as it should be to political leaders, which should not be the case, because politicians and ministers and what have you are serving at the behest of the people. So that's the first.
But the people would also say that if they do not do these things, you say they are disrespectful. You sometimes would insist that they have something against you. So they don't want to seem like they have something against you.
Well, but as you know, there's a gulf between being rude or discourteous and being pandrous and sycophantic. You know that. Mm-hmm. And secondly, the trappings of political office. You get into office and police people are opening your door for you, this is happening, and some people use motorcades, and you just have to be awake. You have to be awake that this life or this situation you find yourself in is not by your making, first of all, and also it's not what should define you. And if you understand, if you get these principles well grounded, I think all in all, you will be someone who will rise above the trappings of political office. It can be very tempting, but I think if you have the principles well ingrained, you should not have any difficulty whatsoever.
So you are saying that as Ghanaians, we should recognize that these politicians, these ministers, president, are there for us, and so we should be able to tell them the truth.
Yeah, they are your employees fundamentally. They are really the employers are the people. The population and the citizens are those who employ the president and employ his government and officials of his government. And by all means, we should give honor and respect to a high office, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we should also be bold and courageous enough to not to treat our political leaders as some chiefs or kings or what have you. They should be seen as who they are, public servants.
Great. I'll get back to you shortly, but let me say that we're able to bring you the BBC News. The BBC News brought to us by Fidelity Bank. Believe with us. Glyco, we cushion you for life, and Petra Trust. Petra, achieve more. We'll bring it to you tomorrow. But Honorable Jinapor, before briefly also, one of the things that actually happened in the last meeting of Parliament beyond the budget is the lithium deal.
Yes.
Now, you were Lands and Natural Resources Minister in the previous administration. So you at the time, and I remember having this conversation with you right here on the Super Morning Show where we talked about the royalty and everything, the fact that we felt the royalty was still not much, but what we saw was a reduction in it. Now there's been an amendment, there's a new law that actually sees to a sliding regime. So for instance, if the rate is between this and that, between a certain range, you go 5, 7, sometimes up to 11%. What do you make of that? Does that solve the challenge that we had with the royalty arrangements?
Well, I've been very reluctant to critique the work of the current Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, because as you know, he's my immediate successor, and I think it's fair not to be too critical of him and breathing down his neck. And also, there's a ranking member for Lands and Natural Resources in Parliament, Honorable Amprachum, whom I believe is very capable to deal with these matters. But that said, I think I can make 2 or 3 general points. The first one is I believe that the attention and the interest this lithium transaction is generated is one that should be welcomed. And is welcoming because, as you know, the lithium resource of our country falls within the bracket of minerals called the green minerals and the minerals of the future. And the world is heading to we're headed to a green world, and lithium is absolutely crucial for what you call the green energy transition. And so every country in the exploitation of its green mineral resources is being very particular as to how those deals are structured. And secondly, there's also a history. This is not a fresh transaction. One transaction was put before Parliament, and that did not find favor with the 8th Parliament. And now we have a different deal, which is being laid before Parliament, and comments were made with regards to the deal which was put before the 8th Parliament. I'm not even too sure that we should get ourselves, caught up with recrimination or counter accusations. You said this, I'm saying this today. I think what is absolutely important is for us to have a deal or to have an arrangement or transaction which promotes or serves the national interest of Ghana. And so the question ought to be this lease or this proposed lease, does it serve the national interest of Ghana?
Does it?
There are a few questions I believe the minister and the government will have to answer to convince the Ghanaian people and to convince people like us. First is the threshold, the base rate, the bottom rate, which is 5%. If you have to ask yourself the question, the price of lithium at the time the 8th Parliament deal or transaction was rejected, and the price of lithium today, if the price of lithium today is more than the price of lithium then, then the question is, how do you have a certain price, say $8?
But the price is not more than it was before.
No, it's just a question. I don't even have the facts now. But I'm just saying that if the price is more today and the rate is pegged at 10%, it's pegged at 5%, and the rate was negotiated for 10% then when the price was lower. If that is the case, then one will be a bit concerned.